Hi, this is Arthur Carmazzi, best-selling author and currently ranked as one of the world's top 10 thought leaders in organizational culture and leadership, and welcome to the Night of Transformation. Today we have a very special show because we are going to have an interview with Silverster Pulman. Now, this particular show is a little bit different because we're actually having a discussion on multiple points of this topic. Okay, you ready? You ready? Okay, structure. Now, you'll know that there's a lot of organizations that have a lot of structure to the point of bureaucracy, and they're trying to reduce their structure. But then there's the startups who are growing, and they're growing fast, and they need more structure. So in this particular conversation, Silverster and I will basically debate the benefits, pros and cons of structure and how it's going to affect your organizational culture. This is Arthur Carmazzi, and let's get to it.
So one of the problems many organizations are facing these days is more or less the smaller companies are trying to come up with some kind of structure that would help them to scale up and grow globally and create some set of rules and some set of standards. Whereas a lot of the large organizations realize that too much structure is basically killing creativity and engagement of employees, and that attitude that startups have, where you come into work all hyped up, oh yeah, we're building something crazy cool and let's work on this all together, we are one family, we are one team. And the question would be, what is the actual, how to do this, how to achieve that you are able to grow, you are able to become a global, successful organization without losing that startup feel?
Well, okay, first of all, at the end of the day, it's about your internal motivation, right? So oftentimes what happens is that the leaders in smaller companies, they decide that, oh, well, we're going to add this structure and you're going to have to follow the structure. And they ignore the fact that the people that have been there oftentimes have got them to where they are. Okay, so the people are often not necessarily involved in the structure, okay? And so therefore the organizational culture becomes very lopsided to what the leader wants, and that's when people start to lose engagements like, oh, I used to have this freedom, now it's gone. Now, of course, understanding colored brain, we also know that there are certain brain processes that will gravitate towards structure, while other brain processes are repelled by structure. Okay, and considering this also needs to maintain a certain balance. Okay, so when it comes to the larger organizations, well, of course, bureaucracy, we know, kills innovation and it kills productivity. But at the end of the day, there are there's a lot of people there. In some cases, you're looking at 30, 40,000 people with some of the organizations that we've worked with, right? And the management tries to come down with, oh, okay, we've got this new initiative and we're going to send it down to you because we're the management and we know better than you do. And that's the message they're basically sending across, and people are going, oh my gosh, not another initiative that I have to deal with. Okay, well, in reality, again, the culture process, okay, the revolution culture revolution that we do, okay, one of the key things that deals with is a process that connects the people themselves to come up with the culture and then present it to senior management. But because of the structure, we already know what's going to happen because of the discovery process. We already know what's going to happen in advance, and senior management can easily agree to the culture that is presented because they knew what the outcome was before they even were going to start.
Okay, the question here is do you build really the culture around concrete individuals? You mentioned in the beginning that those people in the startup got them to grow and now they're being successful and all that. How long can you count on these people? People come, people go, it's a fact of life. So can you really build the culture for the people you have now? Or you build a culture for people you will have tomorrow?
Well, see,
or
the thing is that
how you build the structure for this?
And this is where cultural fit comes in, right? Say, for example, okay, you want a culture of innovation.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're hiring people who have a high emotional need for security. You're hiring people that basically have a high emotional need for excellence, and you know, they don't really want to take too many risks because it may deter from their personal motivations. You're not going to have a culture of innovation.
So basically, from the very first day, from the recruitment, we should be focusing on people who have the right motivational drives. If we want innovation, we want motivational drive for growth.
Absolutely, yeah.
Challenge for diversity eventually.
Absolutely, but not everybody. Now, mind you, okay, see, there has to be one primary thing that you have to think what your company is about. One thing, okay? Are you about, okay, security, or are you about innovation, right? You can't be both, okay? Because it's like you've got a lot of these organizations that say, oh, we want you to, you know, come up with all these innovative ideas, but if you make a mistake, bam, okay? And so they you know, they want excellence and they want innovation, and you know, the innovation requires mistakes, so that deters from the excellence. And people are trying to achieve the excellence, don't do innovation because that would require something new that they can't be excellent at because it requires time. So people have to think about what they want in the beginning and take that one thing, and then they can build around it. Because you don't, for example, you want people that have a high emotional need for a sense of recognition and also achievement. These are the people that are going to take you forward.
Yes.
Right? But if everybody's got that, well, then you're going to have some problems because there's going to be conflict because everybody wants to be the boss.
Okay, the question is now, would you create an innovation department where you put...
No, absolutely not.
Because
no.
This has to be
No,
across
it
the
cannot
board, right?
be. It has to be completely across the board. Okay, for example, in our organization, okay, we take pride in the fact that we're constantly breaking the mold in the learning and development industry, and helping organizations to really excel. And we do things that, you know, other people say, no, that's crazy, you can't do that. It goes against McKinsey's 4 laws of culture change. And it's like, how long ago did McKinsey come up with that stuff? Look at the new age that we're in right now, okay? I mean, think about it. You know, right now, we are in the PFB era. Post-Facebook era,
yeah.
Right? The gratifications and the perspectives of what is important and how we get our emotional gratification has totally drastically changed than just 10 years ago.
Of course.
Okay, before your social network was at work and your boss, okay, was though if he gave you a like, you know, great, your peers give you a like, fantastic. People told people what you did. Oh, hey, look at what Silverster did. Share. Okay, people are commenting on what you're doing. Oh, that's fantastic. All of these things give you emotional gratification. Okay, now your boss doesn't do it, your peers don't do it. I don't care. I got my mobile phone. I'm gonna post a picture of a kitten and I'll get 100 likes in 20 minutes. I don't need them anymore.
Well, yeah, but in an organization, people should work together.
Well, they should, and the question is the culture supporting the emotional gratification of the people so that they want to work there, so that they feel great about working there, and instead of turning to their phones for emotional support.
So what you're saying basically is it's not really a question of structure, it's purely a culture question.
But see, structure, like I said, okay, when we're talking about ambiguity relief processes, some brain process gravitate towards structure, others are repelled by it, right? So you definitely need some structure. And even the ones that are repelled by structure, they're repelled by too much structure. As long as there is a gamified structure, it makes the whole structure thing fun. Okay, and now it's like you're moving towards something and like you're being rewarded for following certain rules, okay, and achieving certain targets. And targets does not necessarily mean sales. Right now, most of the gamification related engagement stuff is related to sales and specific sales targets. What about rewarding people for leadership? Okay, what about rewarding people for cooperation? Okay, and there are no systems that are, you know, out there. Well, of course, except ours, because we're awesome, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, our gamification process basically is not one that we set up for people. It's one that we facilitate people to come up with, so that because they know their departments.
Okay, so if we want to maintain the startup culture in a large-scale organization, should we break it down to smaller unit to create this atmosphere, or can we really build a startup innovation, excitement, employee engagement culture in an organization with 100,000 employees?
Okay. That's a two-part answer. First of all, okay, you have to start with small. Small for us. Like for example, our system only works with up to 1,200 people. Okay, so that can be a division or a department to start it. Okay, but then from there, okay, you can roll it out. But see, here's the thing. Okay, I mean, our system only works when people, when the organizations meet a criteria. Okay, first of all, senior management has to be involved. If senior management is like up here and they say just fix them, it won't work.
Of course not.
Okay. Number two.
They have to listen.
Huh?
They have to listen
Well,
to their
okay.
people.
Well, okay. I mean, but yeah, that's meaning involved, meaning that they have to be at least somewhat humble and everything. And number two, though, is there is going to be a disruption, okay, of operations, you know, for about 2 weeks, okay, and this is why, okay. In order to really achieve a sustainable culture change process, you need to start seeing instant results. People are not patient anymore. Okay, some company rolls out this initiative and it takes like a month for them to even get started. By the time they even get it started, okay, people are going, oh, you know, why do I have to deal with this extra stuff? Because it's, you know, it's just taking away from my job and my KPIs. Okay, and then, you know, it drags on. Okay, people have already given up. Okay, they're not engaged in the change process. But suddenly, if you get people through this intense startup process of getting this culture built, and you can start showing them visible results in improving their relationships, improving their personal results within their job in 2 weeks, people are going to go, wow, yeah, let's move it forward, let's keep on going. So that's the key thing is, but in order to do that, it disrupts the operations. Not completely messes them up, but it does disrupt the operations for about 2 weeks.
Okay, so if I understand this correctly, we will not rebuild the culture from top down, but we will basically select the key influencers among the regular employees.
That's right. So
my question would be though, okay, if we ask for the key influencers, most of the managers would give us the people who are absolutely not loyal, but you know, the most positive people.
But see, we
then
start.
what about those disruptors?
Well, first of all, we start with a list that they give us. Okay, it's always a starting point. Okay, positive people are not necessarily the most influential people.
Yeah, many times, in fact, those disruptive people are the ones with strong opinions and those who influence the colleagues around them the most.
Right. So there's positive key influencers and negative key influencers. A key influencer is people that people trust, respect, and listen to. Okay?
Regardless of position.
Regardless of position, right? So those key influencers, we find them, and we are the ones that basically work with them. Now, of course, with the negative ones, there's two types of negative ones. There's the ones that lack the skill and awareness, and they're not, and they're accidentally causing problems.
Okay.
Okay, and then there are those that just want to feel important, and in order to get that sense of personal recognition and significance, they will disrupt things because that's how they get their validity as human beings. Okay, now the first ones, we incorporate those into the system. The second ones, okay, and this goes back to the third criteria, if you can't change them, if you can't, essentially, they become the enemy. Okay, now the enemy to a greater culture. Now, two things you can do with the enemy. You can make the enemy your friend, in which case now you have an ally, in which case no problem.
So basically we involve them in the process, listen to their opinions.
Right.
Even apply some of their opinions.
Right.
And see if this will change their attitude.
Well, they become involved in the process and given the awareness of what they are doing. Because sometimes we think we're doing something good, but we are accidentally doing something bad that was not really our intention. You know, and for example, when we were doing the culture change program for one of the offices in the Malaysian government, okay, there was this young lady, and from her perspective, she was protecting the people. Why should you have to work extra? Okay, you know, or you're not getting extra payment. You don't have to, you know. So you know the management doesn't understand your family, and you know working extra is just going to make you not connect with your family, and you have no work-life balance and all this stuff. So people are listening to this, and and from her perspective, she actually did work extra. Why? Because she wanted to get a raise. But the other people, you know, she's like, she doesn't look at the other side. If you don't work extra, if you don't actually put in some extra effort to really do some, high quality work and be efficient, and you're just kind of sitting around being lazy. Okay, she doesn't go into the fact that they're not going to get a promotion.
Of course, yeah.
Right? But she's on her way up because she does put in that extra effort, but she wasn't aware of what she was doing. She honestly thought she was helping. Okay? So sometimes just a little bit of awareness creates a different perspective. And so the second one is if you cannot make the enemy your friend, you have to fire them.
Of course.
Or in the case of the Malaysian government, we couldn't fire them, so what we did is we literally put them in this special happy department where they were isolated from everybody else. And they just were not able to negatively influence.
That's an interesting thought. Okay, now many successful startups are popping up all over the world, usually in the IT sector. So what if you have a startup that is experiencing huge growth? Now they came up with the solution and they're growing and they're selling global, and suddenly they realize that there's just too many of them. It's not like it was when we were 20 and we were all one big family.
That's a common problem.
Well, it's happening every day.
Exactly.
That's why these companies need to build a structure without disrupting the culture. So it's a very opposite point of view.
Well, actually, these companies need to define their culture before they get too big.
Okay, what if they miss the point? Which is also the case.
And then they have to go through culture change, right?
Grow.
I know. And that's the thing is that these companies end up forgetting once you start hitting around 70 people, even 50 in some cases. Okay, now you're hitting the tipping point. Now it becomes a much more different dynamic than the original passion and everything else. And then it becomes because you've got more people, you have to make more rules, so it becomes more bureaucratic.
I absolutely agree.
Okay?
Yeah. 50 is actually the number. And you get the first people lost.
And so this is where, again, first of all, oftentimes people are hiring based on competencies, and they forget about hiring for cultural fit. So that's one major factor. Okay. Second, from the very beginning, structuring a culture kit and getting a culture buddy to support them with the culture that they want. I mean, first of all, if they don't know what the culture is. Why? Because they're doing things and they're having a good time and they think, wow, we have such a great culture, and they just think it's going to last. Okay, but because they're not setting that up, they're not defining it. That's where they lose their culture, and that's where they lose their advantage.
So basically, as soon as you hit 50, you should really start thinking about cultural issues.
Absolutely.
How is your
Defining,
culture?
creating,
Define
and
your
oftentimes,
culture.
the worst part is that, there's everybody's still, this old school thinking where you've got, oh, we define our mission and we define our values, and then we get people to believe in these values, and that's going to create our culture. Oh my gosh! I mean, if you just go to most organizations and you ask them, what are your company's values? They're going to say, one of them is this, and they're not going to remember. They're going to know.
But what we used to do was something we called value-based recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
So we had our values very clearly defined, and we were trying to find people who actually have all five. It was 5 basic values.
Sure.
So finding people who have all 5 of these values, but how can you assess that?
Well, people lie to you.
Interview. Exactly.
Okay, and this again, so this is why, you're using the CBC cards. You play games with these people. They don't know what you're doing. You're playing games with them. And then suddenly, because of the decisions they make and the cards that they choose and how they define those cards, you understand their values. You understand their motivational fit as well as their cultural fit. And you're playing game. There's no way to beat it unless, of course, you're DC psychology trained, in which case then you know what we're doing.
Yeah. The question is, what if you have an expert in some field, an expert
Mm-hmm.
you need, I don't know, expert coder is usually the type, who simply would never fit the culture, but you feel that you need this guy because of his expert knowledge. How would you face this situation?
First of all, there's a lot of people out there, okay? There's not one guy that's indispensable.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so don't make compromises with your culture.
So,
'Cause you
culture before
You make one
knowledge.
exception with one guy, and that guy can be your negative key influencer that is going to destroy the rest of your culture.
So
One
culture
guy
comes
is all it
before the
takes.
knowledge.
Absolutely. It's not the knowledge. You can find people with the knowledge. But again, remember, attitude is going to be expressed through culture.
All right. So basically, for the little startups, all that needs to be done is know what you want to achieve, know the culture you want to have,
Mm-hmm.
know how you want your
And
people
it's not
to
just about
interact.
values. It's not just about values, okay? A culture goes far beyond the values. A culture becomes, literally, okay, like for example, when we do our culture programs, people develop their own guiding principles in order to achieve the environment that they want to create. Okay, see, it's about, the culture is about the environment. So if I go to work, okay, what kind of an environment do I want to work in? How do I want people to treat me? How do I want people to connect with me and support me? And what am I willing to do in order to make that happen? How can I, get people to trust and respect me, and how can I be assured that I will be able to trust and respect the other people around me?
You just said it. This is the thing. Based on my experience, based on, I guess, your experience, more or less people all over the world want the same thing when
Yes.
they go to work. They want cooperation, they want respect, they want their opinion heard, they want a fun.
Yeah, they do.
Most of the people want fun at work as
Absolutely.
well. So how is it possible that everybody wants the same, and still for most people, in fact, going to work is a punishment rather than, ooh.
Because they're not focusing on the culture. They're focusing on the process of how to get your job done and how this person is not doing it in the right way. They're focusing on the processes instead of the objective, the bigger objective. And the culture itself, they're not focusing on the culture. They're not focusing on creating a culture that really supports the environment, that supports the creativity and productivity. Okay? They're not focusing on creating a culture that promotes personal success so that people can succeed through their organization, not for their organization.
Yeah. So how can we avoid that? Because this, to me personally, oftentimes it's exactly in the communication gap between the people and the management.
Okay.
Because all the people want the same. Management, in fact,
also wants the same.
Wants the same plus some
But see,
results.
the problem is that
So where
the management thinks that they know how to get those people to do it. So the management gives them the process instead of creating structures by which people can use their own process to achieve the same objectives.
What if we look at it from this perspective? So basically the extreme case of this would be that you don't put any rules in place. You just give really objectives. I want this done at the end of the day, right?
Well, yeah.
So wouldn't the whole workplace become kind of a unorganized chaos?
It would. Absolutely. You have to have, you must have some structure. Again, and if you have only chaotic process, you're only going to cater to some people that actually feel comfortable with that. The rest of the people that actually you need to synergize and leverage off of will feel like it's the worst place ever to work in. So they'll leave. And then you just got the chaotic people who are not going to be as effective. So you do absolutely need some structure. But this is the thing, is the management imposing that structure, or are the people creating that structure for themselves in order to achieve success in the personal success in the process of achieving company objectives?
Great.
Now, oftentimes one of the key factors is salary. And salary never goes into the element of culture, ever. Okay? Because everybody wants more money.
Yes.
Okay? But you can never use salary or increases in salary as a basis for motivation, because it's very short-lived. It lasts maybe 2 weeks, and then it's like, well, when's my next
month
increment?
until the next
Yeah.
until next pay. Then it becomes
Yeah, it becomes baseline.
And I want more again.
Exactly. So money is not the real motivator. It's what, even if you have money, it's not what motivates you. It's what money buys that motivates you, right? It can motivate a sense of security. I have money in the bank. It can motivate, oh, I'm buying a really fancy house that I can show off to my friends, or a fancy car. It can motivate, I'm going to go travel around to all these really cool places that I can learn with my family. So, you get a sense of connection with your family, and you're also in this process of learning. And so you got, it's about what the money buys, not the money itself. I mean, I guarantee you, you had a bag full of money, $10 million. Okay, but you couldn't spend it, you couldn't even show it to anybody, and you can't give it away. What good is it going to do you?
Nothing.
Right? I mean, people do not want colorful pieces of paper with pictures of dead people on them. They want what they feel money can buy.
True, definitely. So basically, the wrap-up of this whole thing is that if you are a startup that's becoming successful, make sure you understand the culture you have,
and the one you want to create.
The one you want to create, and keep this on top of the priorities.
Absolutely.
To make sure that your growth in the future is consistent
and always hire for cultural fit first before competence.
All right. Thank you very much, Arthur.
You're very welcome.
Okay, so this is Silverster and Arthur from Avalon Resort in Bali, wishing you great success.
All right.